Hey, bruh, what would you do if your ex became your stepsister? Some of y'all would think it was odd, some of y'all would be awkward, others of you would probably think it's unlimited sex. Well, we get to see a scenario like that in this show, My Stepmom's Daughter is My Ex. I believe that's what it's called. Anyway, we start the show off with the two bickering because they happen to have to go to the same location. And after that, they're all at dinner, and the parents are praising their kids for getting along so well and adjusting to such a strange scenario so soon. Whole time, they don't even know they used to go out. We then fast forward to after dinner where we see Mizuto and Yume arguing on who is the older sibling. So they establish a game where whoever brings up the past or acts unlike a step sibling has to call the other by an older name. So then we see Yume purposely annoy Mizuto by trying to aggravate him, but then he plays the reverse card, but he does it with sympathy. And by doing so, she then goes back in time and thinks about when they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and her rivers get to flowing, if you get what I'm saying. He then celebrates his declaration of winning the first round and tells her to call him by an older name. And then when she did it, he most likely caught a boner. And you know, even though she's the one who started the games, right, she's mad at him for like being mean apparently. It's like, oh, this is why we broke up, you're such a bitch. And Mizuto looks a bit confused. But then we go to the next day and it's their first day of high school. And during the first day presentation, they're like, yeah, we're never walking to school together again. We then go to later on when they're in class and Mizuto is chilling until two guys approach him and they're like, yo, is it true you and her are stepbro and stepsis? And Mizuto is sitting there like, why the hell would they know that? And after that, he goes to the bathroom and then he hears the same two and they're over there gossiping about how they want to clap his sister. Like, bro, they in the bathroom talking about something, bro, I want to fuck Yume, but Mizuto is such a bitch ass nigga. And then after school, he's heading home, right? He walks in the door and it seems his sister already knows what's going on. And she's like, yeah, those two look down upon you. They couldn't even talk to me themselves because they pussy. And Mizuto simply just said, don't worry about it. The next morning, we see them walking to school, but this time it's together. And Mizuto is a bit confused because he's like, I thought we agreed to go separately, right? And then we see when they arrive to the school, two people approach him and they're like, yo, bro, let's hang out after school, right? And I'm assuming that Yume picked up on this, like, you know, it's just some using shit. So she was like, no, we actually were just having a conversation, and freaking put her titties on his elbow, right? He's like, oh, I have a brother complex. The fuck? After that, they didn't show any school scenes from what I remember, and we just go straight to when they're at home and their parents are out right now. So that means Mizuto had to cook dinner, right? He cooking dinner, and the sister's like, oh yeah, forget about when I put my titties on your elbow. It was like, bitch, I already forgot. And apparently, like, that pissed her off, right? So she's in the bathtub angry as hell, like, bro, why this nigga forget that my titties was on his arm? So then she came up with a genius idea to go outside with just a towel on to somewhat, I guess, seduce him. That's what it looked like anyway. And she having real fun with it, right? Until her towel actually starts to come off. But Mizuto already knew what was going on the whole time, so he went ahead and gave her his jacket. That's when they start to talk about what was going on earlier, right? Where he's like, oh, I didn't need you to defend me. But she's like, hey, we're family now, right? Which I don't think is the reason why she defended him. But she's like, oh, we're family now. I gotta defend you. And as she's walking over to him, she trips. And they both fall onto the couch. And boy, I ain't gonna lie, if it wasn't for their parents coming home, boy, they probably would have went ballistics, boy. They probably would have had an X-Videos step-sis stuck in dryer-esque time, bro. I ain't gonna lie. But low-key, this scenario is probably the craziest scenario you could be put into. Like, your ex being your step-sis, cuz, like, what the freak? Hey, bruh, I just got done gooning, and that reminded me of this stepbrother, stepsister anime, and I was like, oh yeah, I should make a part 2 to that. We open up episode 2 with seeing that the class has a fitness test, right? So then bro who's trying to get at bro's sister walks up to the main character. He's like, hey, what's good, cuz? And he tries to pair up with him, right? He's like, oh yeah, this fitness test, cuz, me and you, let's get through this together. And then the main character's like, you befriending me don't mean you get to fuck my sister, cuz. You a player ass nigga. You not getting near my sister. But he claims that's not his intentions and he just simply wants to be friends. And then he tells him to turn around, and when he turns around, he sees his stepsister, and his stepsister is stunned because of what he said. And then we go later into the day, right? And they're measuring the physicals of people, right? So they're measuring the girl's chest. And then there's this girl, I forgot her name, I ain't gonna lie. And she's just looking at Yumi's chest, I think that's how you say her name. And that stuns her, and she's like, oh, my bad, cuz I'm just jealous that you got big titties and I don't. But she tries to reassure her, right? She's like, oh, no, it's not that much bigger than yours. Mine aren't that big. We then go to right before the test, right? And the girl from before is complaining about the test, like, oh, nigga, every year we have to do this bullshit. And then when the test begins, she's actually pretty good at it. So that led Yumi to believing that she was bad. So she's like, oh, why were you complaining if you're good? She's like, just because I was complaining doesn't mean I'm not good. So then it's Yumi's turn, right? Yumi's like, oh, I'm finna fucking suck, cuz I gotta do something to maintain my reputation at school. And then she looks over and sees the main character, right, her stepbrother, doing sit-ups. And then he just stops mid-sit-ups and is like, yeah, nigga, I'm not trying no more. So then she starts to do the jump. She does it, and she did pretty well. And then we see her do different exercises, right? Sit-ups. And then at the end of it, they do a race, and she gets absolutely smoked. Well, not smoked, but she did get beat. Anyway, after the race, right, they're having a conversation, and then her ass finna pass out. But she's luckily saved by her stepbrother, and her stepbrother tells her to be careful, and then gives her back to her friend. And then we cut to them in the nurse's office, and her friend apologizes if she made her feel like she had to push too hard, whatever. But then Yumi's like, nah, nigga, I'm just sorry at sports. But that actually makes her friend feel closer to her, because for some reason she looked at her as some type of goddamn goddess or some shit. But anyway, that conversation got them so close that she wants to call her by her actual first name, which is Yume, I think. And then she calls her Yume, right? So Yume wants to return the energy, but she can't. But her friend is fine with that because she realizes that they just became friends. The next day at school, Yume is not there, and her friend is freaking out, asking the main character, like, cuz, where my homie at? And then the nigga that wants to get at his sister's cheeks walks up, and he's like, hey, calm down, cuz. And then her friend calls him out. It's like, you're only friends with this nigga because you trying to get with his sister. But he denies those claims. He's like, I'm not a pursuer with love. I'm more of a watch and see what happens. We fast forward to after school, and we see the main character and Yume's friend walking together, right, to his house. And then she's asking him questions about her and his relationship, right? It's like, oh, what is it like living together, right? Have you ever tried to walk in on each other? And then he says no, and she calls that goddamn boring. It squeezed me, nigga. Anyway, they get to the house. She's like, okay, this is my friend lives, right? They walk in, and then Yume is asleep, right? So then she slightly opens her eyes and only sees the main character. So then she's like, where were you? She started talking to some goddamn seductive voice. She's like, where were you? I was lonely, right? But then she brings up that her friend is there. She's like, oh, shit. And then she exits horny mode. It's like, oh, I appreciate you coming here to check up on me and all that. And then she's like, oh, yeah, I brought you some food. I'm going to go cook it for you. And while the character and her are cooking, right, they're having some conversations. She's then like, oh, when you get a girlfriend, won't it be weird when you bring her around and she's here, right? And then he's like, oh, I don't get a girlfriend because I get no bitches. But she says because of the way he acts around women that she can tell that he's had a girlfriend before. She then asks if she's going to tell her when he gets a girlfriend, and she's like, I don't need her approval. And then I guess she's just going to have to find out until he get married. Anyway, she feeds her what she made, and after she gets done eating, she's getting ready to leave, right? So then the main character walks her out the door, right? They have a little conversation, and then she's gone. So he walks back in, and Yume's like, oh, you and my friend got real along. Y'all cook rice together and all this other stuff, right? And then he's like, oh, so you're saying that you don't want your friend to cook with me? She then asks him not to leave her again, and then he's like, I'm not gonna leave you. And then she brings up something from the past about when he did leave her. So he puts his hand out, I guess to hold her hand, but then she grabs his hand and then puts it on her goddamn breast. And then we get more background as to their breakup, right? So yeah, at first it was a deep love, right? They couldn't get enough of each other, but then gradually as they had more disagreements, they eventually pulled apart. And then came that fateful day where he walked in and found out that the girl that his dad was getting with was his ex's mom. He's still beside her, right? And he's like, okay, can I check your temperature, right? Because you've been sick this whole time. You keep asking me for favors, cuz I need to see if you're recovering. So then she's like, no, you don't need to check my temperature. But he ends up checking it and finds out that she was bluffing majority of the time. So she apologizes, right? And he forgives her. And right before he leaves, she says, don't you ever abandon me ever again, which again, I don't know what that means. Maybe we'll get more background on that later. And then the episode ends. Now I get the step sibling thing is extremely weird, but this is actually probably the least weird out of all of them. Not because there's not weird scenes, and not because I feel like it's okay to do. It's mainly because that they already had romantic feelings before they were actually a couple. Hey bruh, today we're going over My Ex is My New Stepsister episode 3. If you haven't seen the previous two, go ahead and look in the link in the description. Anyway, the episode starts out right with the stepsister reminiscing on old times on how she used to do weird things about her ex-boyfriend, such as keep items he would give her and then worship them like they were sacred objects. Basically, she was down bad as hell. And the reason for this flashback is because we go back to present day and she's doing something down bad again. Not only does she have a pair of this nigga drawers, she sniffed that motherfucker. But then once she sniffed it, she realized what she was doing, threw it down and started panicking, saying she's going back to her old ways and she doesn't want to do so. And she also thinks about how they have the game where you can't violate rules that would be outside of siblings, and how she just did it and she doesn't want to get punished, and she even had a whole fucking fantasy of the punishment where you start spanking her. Anyway, because she wants to avoid punishment for violating the terms, she's gonna wait till everybody falls asleep to return his underwear to him. So some hours pass by, right? She can't really hear no movement going on, so she opts that this is the perfect time to go. So she makes her way to his room, right? Opens the door, then he's about to open his door, but then he opens his door. The thing is, he has one of her goddamn bras. And it looks like a case of two people doing some extremely weird shit, and they both get caught doing it. So they play rock, paper, scissors to see who would have to fess up first, and she lost. So she explained that she was reverting back to her old self, back to when they were in a relationship and the things she used to do. And now that he knows that it was kind of regular, he wants to know why she would do such weird things. So she tells him about the story where she used to keep things and almost worship them like they were sacred objects, and that actually makes him blush. But when she presses the fact, he then denies it and starts pressing her about the fact that she used to do it, but then she deflected and said, okay, why did you have my bra? And then he says, even though you probably won't believe me, I just opened the jar and your bra fell out, but dad came in and I had to put it behind my back so I wouldn't seem like a goddamn weirdo. And says they never had the opportunity to put it back, but she doesn't believe that story at all. So then he's like, okay, how did you get my drawers? And she basically pulled the same card that mom came in, and she just happened to have his drawers in her hand. So then she's like, well, what did you do with the bra? Did you do anything with the bra? And he was like, of course I didn't do anything weird with the bra. Did you do anything with my underwear, such as sniff it? And then she denies that she was sniffing his damn underwear. And then after a little bit more bickering and arguing, they then opt, okay, look, bro, we both violated the rules. Let's just not talk about it anymore, and let's both get punishments that are within construct and aren't unreasonable for societal terms with siblings. So we fast forward to after the school day, right? And she's walking, and then she sees the main character eating with another girl, and she gets instantly jealous. And then we go to the next morning at school, and she's talking to her friend about the girl that she saw, and then her friend is like, well, a lot of people fit that description, and I bet your brother will be a great boyfriend to whoever that is. And then we see her go to the house, right? And then she sees girl's shoes at the front step, and she's like, oh my god, he's going crazy with her already. So she takes pictures of the shoes for some reason, and then calls him, and then makes up some excuse so he would leave the house, and then that way she could get a one-on-one with the girl, and then try and get her to leave, basically sabotage the situation. So after the call happened, right, she heard someone leave the door, and then she goes to his room, but he's the one who opens the door. So then she start pressing him about the girl, like, oh, where's the girl? Like, where's that bitch? I thought you left the house, whatever, right? And he's like, girl, what girl is you talking about, my nigga? So then she shows him the picture, and he's like, hey, check your room, make sure nothing out of order, right? So then she goes, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with my room. He's like, you sure, cuz? There might be some goddamn ghosts in here. But she not going for none of the bullshit. So then he's like, hey, cuz, you got me, bro. I was with her, cuz. I'm tired, so leave me alone. And she takes I'm tired as they was just smashing before she got there. So then she asks for him to explain further, but he's like, I don't gotta explain nothing to you, cuz. And then he's about to walk to his room, but then he notices a red chair, and he seems a little spooked, so he goes, and she's like, wait, did he forget where his room was? Anyway, we cut to her in her room, sad, being jealous over the fact that he possibly got with another girl. And then we go to the main character, where we actually see what was actually going on, and then we learn that the girl was actually her friend wearing glasses and a fake wig. And then we learn that she wants to marry him, right? So then she can be sister with his sister, and then start talking about fantasies. Like, she's like, I want to wash her whole body, and she start getting excited. I'm like, nigga, what is going on? What the Anyway, after that, he then's trying to get her to get away, because she keep following him. She followed him to that food place, right? She followed him home, all types of shit. And I ain't gonna lie, I forgot if this dude was in previous episodes. I'm assuming he was. I don't know what he is to her or whatever, but I don't know, nigga. Anyway, he was talking to his friend about it. I'm assuming it's his friend. He's like, oh yeah, she keep doing this. How do I get her to go away? How do I get this to happen? And then his friend offers something that we didn't hear in the initial conversation. We then see him go to his stepsister's door, right? Knock, knocks on it. It's like, okay, I want to use that favor for the break of terms. And then she's like, okay, whatever, what is it? And then he's like, go on a date with me. And then the episode ends. Now, this episode was probably the weirdest out of all of them, my nigga. Like, yo, niggas are sniffing drawers and niggas capturing bras. And, yo, it's not crazy, bro. I ain't gonna lie. But, yeah, y'all let me know how y'all feel about this episode. And, let me know what else I should recap, cuz.